Okay, so last week we were talking about business process modeling, and I mentioned that the business process modeling is a means of by which the organization carry out their operation, and is you can know the sequence of how the activity is being done, and also you could know the series of tasks, probably maybe that is being performed, the series of that are being performed, to carry out a particular operation. And so last week we were trying to, model some of the business processes, and we model use case, the requirements using use case, and use case diagram, and also we try to do the flow charts as well. And so just to recap on what we discussed last week before we actually move into that. So we discussed about what the business process is all about, and because when you are using a business process or modeling a business process, anyone can pick up that particular process to understand maybe how a staff is being created, or maybe how recruitment process, how it's being done, and also you can use it to know activities or how a particular, maybe like a set of activities or how things are being done, the people that are involved. So you can use that process, business process to, just like a process, how things is being done. Like if you can say you want to model a process or how a bowl is being made, so you can say where the request comes in. Does it go to maybe the designing team? Does it go to manufacturer team? Then what did they do? That's how the business process. Then we discussed about the flow chart. The flow chart, we said the flow chart is the one that you can't really differentiate who is doing what when you are using a flow chart diagram, because it's just from top to bottom. And we discussed about cross-functional, which is our swim lane, and which you can actually, you have different roles or different teams or different organization or functions that is carrying out a particular task. So you'll be able to differentiate with that. And also we discussed on the business process modeling notation, which is like the symbols that you can use actually to model business process as well. And this is the flow chart. So we discussed that. So here we cannot really see who is doing what here. We can just say something is starting and a decision is being made and activity is being carried out. So we can't really know who is doing what here. And we discussed on the cross-functional diagram. So the cross-functional diagram here, so we can see here, we are saying this is our process maybe of how a recruitment is being done. And we can say who is doing this. So we describe this as lane, like as a lane, like swim lanes. So this is our swimming pool, and we have different lanes. So you call it a pool, then the lane, you call it different lane. So you can use this to represent team, maybe a role, or maybe like line manager or HR manager. You can use it to also maybe do sort of like your organization as well, differentiate organization, like you can have different organization. And yes. So you can really know who is doing what and the hands-off as well. So we do that. So we discussed on high-level business processes. That high-level business process, this is when you have like, just high-level, like a summary, like an overview of a particular process. So for example, if we're saying we want to do a recruitment, and so we can say we have a recruitment, which is probably maybe register staff, apply for job, download, or attend interview, and get the results. So like 5 boxes. So that is just like high level. But in low level, you can have like maybe 14 boxes there, because like shapes. So because you will be able to know, you can, for the registration, you can break that down. Even for the application or download application, you can, break that down into different activities. And also attending interview, you can break that down as well, saying maybe send invites, attend the interview, send offer letter, onboard team. Now, so this is what we have our our Visio. So because last week we used this for the use case to model our requirements, and so today I'm going to use the cross-functional, to do to model the process that we're trying to do last week. So what I want to do now is to model a recruitment process that we're trying to do last week. So I've selected my templates now, and so I have my templates. Yeah. So I have about 2 lanes, but because I'm going to need about three lanes in the swimming pool, so what I'm going to do is to add. What you just need to do is just to drag it, drag the shape, and it will just join up. And you can also expand this, the width, the width of the pool or of the lane. You can expand that. I'm just expanding that, so you can just drag it and expand that. And so what I'm going to do, and because whenever you are modeling a process, you can see here I have cross-functional, because these are the things that, symbols that just peculiar to, shapes that peculiar to cross-functional. But because I'm going to use, let's say, the basic flowchart shapes, from here, so I'm going to click on that. And so what I'm going to do here, let me just enlarge this and this a bit. Okay, yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to do, the first thing is I'm going to, title, label my swim lane. So I can say this is a recruitment process. Recruitment process. All you just need is just to, highlight it, and that's it. And, what you can do is just to put, because whenever you are modeling a process, I need to know, whoever that picks it up needs to know whether is the current process, which is the as is, or the to be process, maybe what you want, how you want the process to work. So that's why I always advise, always put the status here. So I'm going to put as is here. So that's what I'm going to do. And so if I'm modeling for the to be, then I can do that. So most times, or let's say 99.9%, whenever you do the as is, definitely you will have your to be, because it's just like you are letting the supplier know that this is how we're doing things now, and going forward, this is how we want it. This is how we want the process to work. So what I also do is to remove this face. Although some people they don't, but I just try to put it that way because it's just to just for quality purpose. And also what I do, as I mentioned last week, I try to put the version as well, just for the version control, because sometimes when you send, sometimes you work on this process and you send it to maybe your manager, the manager provide a comment and review it and provide a comment on it. And what you may want to do, probably maybe the manager suggested that you should make some, amendments on it. Once you modify it, you want us to be able to know that is maybe version 0.2, because your first one will be 0.1. Then going forward, it will now be version 0.2, and then like that. Because so if you don't put the shape, if you don't put the version, you will not be able to know. I will not be able to know whether it's the approved version or is the draft version, because until it's been approved, that is when it turns to 1.0. You understand? So for this purpose, I will just say version 0.1, because this is my first draft. So probably maybe after today, once I send it to my manager, or maybe they reviewed or the stakeholder review it, then definitely you keep making sure that you change, you update the version as well, so that they'll be able to know the current one that you have at the moment. So, and sometimes I do put my name as well, so that in case maybe if anyone picks it up in future, they'll be able to know that I actually documented it, or maybe I've moved on from that project and I'm working on another project, and somebody needs to maybe work on this process. They can easily contact me to say, oh, Abby, could you please let us know who approved this, who reviewed it, things like that. So that's why sometimes I try to put my name as well. And also, so I put a version there, but I won't put the name for this today. And so I'll just put version 0.1 because that's my first draft. And also sometimes what I do, sometimes I just put, like, maybe if I'm using any shapes here, I'll just put shapes here to be able to describe, to say maybe this means task. I can say, because I'm going to, it's on until you finish it, that's when you will do this anyway. So I'll just say maybe this is my decision. I'll just put the meaning there, so that whoever that is going to do it, but don't let me do that yet, because I need to know the shapes that I'm using at the moment. So, okay, let's start here. So I want to, what are the, the functions that I think that will participate in this process? I know I'm going to have line manager. Just put line manager. And here I'm going to have HR, let's say HR team. So it could be team, it could be organization, it could be maybe, like the role as well, like manager, but you don't need to put name because the name may change. So I would not advise, don't put name, just put the role instead. And I'm just going to put the candidates, because we are talking about, the recruitment process. So these are the three people that will participate in this process. And like I said last week, you can, change the color of this, all this to make it more beautiful and colorful. There's no crime in doing that. So you can do that as you like. So, whenever you start a process, your process needs to have a start and end. You understand? It needs to have a start shape and end shape. When you started something, definitely it will have an end. So I'm starting this with my shape, my start and end shape. So this is for my start. And here, what I can do is to actually put this here. So what I'm saying, last week, you could see that the arrow is now there, the arrowhead is there. So what I'm saying is that now the line manager kicks off this process saying, and I mentioned last week as well that you always need to make sure for this rectangle, the activity, because you are carrying out a particular task, it needs to start with a verb. So you need to, so I'm going to say complete. Complete is a verb. So I'm going to say complete staff, let's say staff request form. So staff request form. So that is my, so that is the first task that is being carried out by the line manager. Then what happens after the line manager, complete the staff request form? So it will submit that, So what you can do, you can drag the shape from here, but you can just, over on this arrow, then it will give you options of the shape that you can use, So if you are going to use decision or the start or the sub process, so you can do that, and you can drag as well. So depending on how it's convenient for you. So once this person completes that, what happens is that the HR team will also, carry out their own task. And so I can say the HR review the form, because I'm saying after you complete, somebody review it. So that's why I'm saying that the next thing is that it will be review request form. Probably maybe I have to change the font size because I can't really see this. So then I may ask the whoever that is giving me this process, because for you to be able to know this process, somebody has to give you the information. So probably maybe during the interview you may ask or maybe during the workshop, definitely you will ask whoever that is responsible to give you the process of how things is being done. Then you can say, so after they may say, okay, what we do is that the line manager will request, we complete a staff request form, and after that they will send it to HR team to review. Then the HR team will review the request form. Then I will say, then what happened after the HR will review the request form? They will be telling you all those things. But definitely, you will not be mapping this when they are telling you. You just be writing it down. But it's just that, based on those information, that's what you are going to use to populate your swim lane. So now I can say, so probably maybe the person have told me that, you have to, after the review request form, there's a decision. They have to decide whether the form is complete. So I can say here, because it's more or less like asking a question, but within yourself saying, is it complete? So I'm going to put it that way. So is it complete? So I'm asking a question. And like I said last week, so anytime you actually use this shape of or diamond shape or gateway, is a decision. So you have either yes or no. So if you're asking a question, is it complete or is the form complete? So then it's either yes or no. But if it's no, what happens? So and if it's no, what happens? I can say if it's no, what happens? This person will have to, okay, what I'm going to do, because I want to use this, so if no, then the person, the arrow should back here. The form should be, should be sent back to this person. What I just, because I need to indicate yes or no here, I just need to click on the shape, click on the shape, and I will type no. So I'm saying, if the review, if the form is not complete, then you send it back to the line manager to complete the form. Then it's it will be like a loop until it's correct. As soon as this manager has reviewed it and everything is correct and corrected it, and this the HR team has reviewed this as well and they feel it's correct. So what happens? So let's say. Okay, so then I would need to put my yes here. So anytime you use decision, just make sure you note yes and no. You understand? So you need to make sure you label here. So then I can say what happened. Then once everything is fine, then the recruitment HR team would just say the post on job sites, or maybe post on website. Let's put on job sites. On job sites, yeah. Okay. Then after that, what happened? Then maybe after some days, then like when you post the job online, what happened? So that means the candidates will actually apply for the job. I'm just trying to adjust this with the width of the link. So then I will say, yeah. So that means is the next action is from the candidates. So I'm saying the candidates will apply for job, apply. Remember, applying for job. Yeah, okay. So you see the verb. We're still starting this in verb. Start with the verb. And so apply for job. Then after applying for job, what happened? Then we can say, oh, this person will now, so because you can easily drag it here. So I can say, after apply for job, this review application download. You can say download application forms or application. I said download application forms. Okay, so then then we can say once it's been downloaded, the HR team usually send this to line manager. So review, we can say review and shortlist. We can say review and review the application. Yeah, let's say review the applications. Then what happened? Yeah. Then what happened? Then send shortlisted. So that means I'm saying the send shortlisted. Send shortlisted candidates. So send shortlisted candidates. Yeah. So then what happened? The HR team will invite the candidates for interview. Okay. Send invite. Send in send or invite. Let's say invite invite candidates, or maybe whatever it is with. Then what happened? Then this person will receive, and we can say attend. The person we attend interview. And yeah, so if it's just a recruitment, if I want to keep, if I want to continue doing this, I can just say, oh, after the attend interview, then the line manager will conduct the interview. But let me just end it here, because let me just end it. So if I want to end it, then I have to say, selecting, okay, so my end shape. So, and sometimes what I do to make it easy for whoever is reading it, what I do is also to shade this or fill my end shape with red. To fill it with red. Let me just use up here. So fill with red. And I'm filling this with let's say with green, And what I can do, I can adjust this, if you don't want it to be, you can adjust it depending on how, but just make sure it's consistent with other shapes as well. Then what I want to do is I can, fill all my rectangle boxes. I can fill that with, change the color to maybe yellow. Then I use this green, depending on how you want to make it colorful, you understand? So you can make it colorful the way you want. So, but the most important thing is that people can read it. So you can see the flow. So what I'm saying here is that I can have my start and end button. So just in case, the reason why I said you can use shapes here is that, you can just use this to represent, saying, this is task, this is decision, this is start and end button, just for maybe like stakeholders, if they don't know the meaning, they'll be able to, understand it. So you can just fill it so that you would just write, I can just say start or end, you understand? So I can just say start or end. I can write decision here. So, but it's not, it's not a mandatory that you have to do decision. I can say this thing. Yeah, then I can say this is task, Then I can color it as well, depending on how I want that, I can just color it. So if I'm using green for this, or definitely I can't use green again because I've used green for my stars. If I'm doing this as yellow, let's try and do that. Let's say yellow. I want to do that in yellow. Oh, no, that's too bright. Okay, let's do that. So that means I'm going to do this as this color as well, and same here. So that means I'm using this color for all my tasks. Okay. So I can decide to leave my decision box, in blue. You understand? So, I can change the title. I can change I can change, wherever. I can change anything. I can use different color for this as well. And also for the title bar. So what we have explained here is that, the line manager kick off the process, and the line manager completes staff request form. Then they send it to HR team. The HR team review the form, decide whether it's complete or not. If it's not complete, they send it back to the line manager. They, will correct it and send it back again, the loop until it's correct. And once they decide that the form is complete, they will post the job, on website, the vacancy on website, and that is when the candidate can apply for. When the candidate apply for the job, they download the application form, and also, then they will send it. The line manager will review the application, send the shortlisted candidate to the HR team to contact and invite them for interview. The HR will invite, the candidates for interview. Then the candidate attend the interview. So depending on all processes that they've explained to you, then you have to document everything. Just because of time, so I don't want to document. I don't want to do more than this. So you can see now we have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So about, let's say 10 shapes. But if it's going to be, let's say, like low level, I can maybe he explained here that they send it by email, or maybe they scan it. I can, put more information here. Then I can say probably maybe they review it, they check something. I can, change this to like 2 task activities. This particular post on the website, I can say post on intranet, post on send to a HT, post on job serve, So you can even give more information, more detail about this post on job site. Because if I say post on job site, you don't read which job site. But if I'm doing like low level, then I can post on company website intranet, post on company website, post on job serve, post on total jobs, and I can give more information about that. So like this 10 can change to maybe like about 16, you understand? So for your low level. So, and also another thing that I need to let you know is that, sometimes assume you have a task that is being carried out by 2 functions. Like, for example, let's say the line manager and HR team, they have a particular task. For example, shortlisted candidates or invite. Let me use this. So let me just quickly change this font to black so that you'll be able to see it properly. Yeah. So let's say this particular task invites candidates, for interview. So this inviting candidate for interview, is the line manager can take up that task, to invite candidates, for interview. So assume that either the line manager or the HR team can do that, or carry out this particular task. I can just, drag it in the middle here. So what I'm saying here is that you can. So I will just adjust it, So I will just adjust this one as well. So what I'm saying here is that this particular task of invite candidate is being carried out by line manager and HR team. So anytime you see a box in the middle like this, that means is these 2 functions, that are carrying out this particular task. Or maybe you are modeling the process by yourself. And anytime they are doing the same activities, they are doing the same thing, or maybe 2 people are doing it, then you just put it in the middle. And so there are some other things that you can do. Well, just because of time, I may not really be able to show you that. You can add this box. You can link it to a web page. You can also link it. You can add hyperlink. What you just do is to, right click on it and just use hyperlink. You can add comments. You can link it to a file, on your desktop. But you can only do that like when you are doing a walkthrough. If you are walking your stakeholder, if you are walking them through this process, that is when that will be useful for you. But if you are sending it to them, because anytime, like I said last week, anytime you model a process, it's not all the stakeholders that will have the license for the Visio. They will not have Visio installed. Not all of them will have Visio installed on their desktop. So they may not be able to open it when you even send it to them like this, as in Visio file, you understand? So you may need, to change this, to PDF. Definitely anytime you are sending this to a stakeholder, you need to change it to PDFs. Then they will be able to view all your everything. They will not be able to modify it because they will just give you the comments. They will give you the comments, but then you will modify it. But because they will not be able to open Visio, so always make sure you convert that to PDF whenever you are sending. So but assume that I want to walk my stakeholder through this process, then probably maybe I say post on job website. So this post on job website, I can just say hyperlink, and you can use also here, also I think where is that one? So you can use here link as well. So you just need to click on that shape, then you use this browse. You understand? When you click on the browse, it will ask you internet address, or you can just it's loading. Definitely, I didn't share my Explorer, so I will not do that. So, or you can just type here. You can just say jobsave.com. You understand? So once you do this, it will ask for the description. You can write it to say job sites. then once you click OK, it will have that there. So let me say OK, and you can also link to, Locify as well. And you can also link to different pages, but let me just do that one. So you can see here, you can see at the bottom here, you can see the HTTP, you can see that. So what you just need to do, click on it, and it will link you to the website. So, but because if I can quickly share my internet, I can't share because I've got some things open on my internet as well. I may not be able to do that. Sorry. If not, I would have just showed you. But you can try it at home. All you just need to click on control. Then it will. So if I click on control now, you can see it has changed to finger pointing finger. So it will just lead or take you to the website. You understand that you put there. And also another thing you can do is still on link. What I can do, I can link to another page as well. So if I want to, that sub address, I can link to another page. See responder. Oh, the only browser now. Okay, let me remove this one. Yeah, let me try and use another one. Okay. Let me right click. So, come on. It's slow. Come on. It's not okay. So if I say address, browse, so I can link this. You can see this particular shape. Assume that you have different processes that you've done here, and I want to point this particular box saying, look for more information. Then, so because I have got page 1, we're on page 1. I want to link it to, let's say if I have page 2, but let me just do that. Let me quickly create page 2 here. Cancel. So assuming that we have something here, then let's go back here. I will just link this one. Hyperlink. Okay. Page 2 here. If I click OK, then you can put something process. Let's say process. Okay. If I click on this, let's see what happens. Respond. Okay. So you can see now it's taking you to the second page. So if you are doing like demo, is useful. All these tips is just useful. Linking it to another page, linking to a website. If you are saying maybe doing a process about a website, then you can do that. And also, I think so. Also, this one is about sub process. Like if you have sub processes, for example, assume that after this we now have, let's say, we want to add onboarding, maybe this particular one is onboarding, I can say this is onboarding, maybe something like that. Let me just remove this one. So here. So, yeah, okay, change it. So yeah, so have linked that. So what I'm saying here, I can say this is onboarding. Definitely you need to write something, onboarding process. So onboarding. So what I'm saying is that we have another process that is about onboarding. You understand? As we have recruitment process here, so we have similar something, a process about onboarding. So I'm saying that after maybe this person, the applicant has attended the interview, then maybe the process of the onboarding will just kick in. You understand? So this is about onboarding. And whenever you use the onboarding, you don't need to use end. You understand? Because we are saying this one has another process. It's just linking you to another process. That's another thing that you can do. And yes, so, and I think one other thing that I mentioned last week was about the BPMN. So let's check that. BPMN. I hope it will come up this way. Yeah, so instead of me using this more results, so you can just say more results. Because sometimes this is just like the basic shapes. So some organization they may say, oh, we use BPMN, so you just need to know. So instead of me using this, what I can do is just to change this, and I will just use start. This will be, oh no, that one is end. So this is my start. So I'll just use my start. I just need to link it. Yeah. So that's my start. So then the hand, assuming that I have end here, so this one will represent my hand events. So that will be hand. So then if you are sending a message, like email, you can use this shape. Maybe if you are using like database, it has more, more shapes, for that you can use. This is the same thing as gateway also. So that's just it. So, and yeah, so that's just that about, we'll move back to her. Okay, so let me just get to the question here. Can review and shortlist be in the same box as they happen simultaneously? Review and shortlist it. Well, for me, I try to make sure I have each tags, in each box, but like some people do model up, but I would rather say review, then have another tags, another arrow to shortlist, because it's after you review it, then you shortlist the stuff. So I will have different shapes for it. I would rather have that because it doesn't really cost me anything. You understand? So it's better to just make it simple and easy to read. I would have review application, then what happened after that? Shortlist. Because you can decide to review the application and don't shortlist anyone, because if none of them is fit, you understand? So I would rather advise you have it separate. When we want to complete a low and high level, so when you complete a low high level, sometimes they may ask you and say, oh, could you please complete the high level requirement, because it could be at the inception of the project. They want to have maybe like a ballpark. Sometimes when you have to go out, or to supplier to get maybe quotation, something like that, like a ballpark of what it's going to cost. Because they know that they may not need, or you may not really have time to to document all the requirements. But the high level, what they may just say, can you put the high level requirements together, or high level process? So you don't need to go into detail for that, because they just need just overview, just a summary. They don't need more the detailed information. So maybe it's just the solution architect may just want to use that to advise or to gauge, the infrastructure that will be required. So sometimes they may ask you to do that. Then once they have the idea, then you may not have to start after they must have maybe done whatever they want to do, then they may say, okay, can you start document the low-level business requirements or business process, because it happens with business requirement document and also process as well. So you can have high-level business requirements and high-level business process, and likewise low-level business requirements and low-level. And also, I think what that happened to me in the past, when I wanted to go out to search for an application. So because we didn't really have like understanding of what the system, what we want from the system. So, but we have like overview of what we want. So what I just did was to put like high level information that we want a learning management process that we can use to train staff. That staff can actually use view their courses, book onto them, like all those high level. So I completed that and I sent it out to the suppliers. So what I did was I researched on the internet, who are the people, like the provider or suppliers of learning management system. And so I sent it to them. I contacted them and said, we want you to quote for this to, to send us a proposal, for this project that we want to do. So I just put like high level, how we are doing things at the moment. So because we don't really have understanding of how we want to do it or the detail is going to be. So what they did was that they sent us proposals, how it's going to be on the functionality of the system. They put so many functionalities there. Assuming that I've sent about 7. So they gave me about, like some of the suppliers, sent about maybe 37 functionalities. Another one sent about 40 functionalities. So, reviewing this, the proposals from the suppliers, then we were able to decide and say, oh, actually, we want this functionality, we want this feature, we want this feature. So we're trying to, we're picking, all those things that we want. So we're able to select. Then now that we want what we actually want from the system, then I was able to document the detailed business requirement document. All those information they've given me in their proposal, then from my 7, I changed to maybe about 30, 30 features. Then I now sent it out again saying we want them to build, because the first time they just gave us like a ballpark. So now that they know all the features that we want, and very detailed one, then they could now, give us the exact price, the feature for this one, the feature for if you want to be sending SMS out, the feature if you want them to be the licenses, they were able to give us information. So yeah, so that's another scenario that that you can find yourself to document low-level information, the detail, we call it detail, business requirement document, or maybe the process, but regardless, you need a detailed business requirement for document for any project. You need a detailed requirement document. And so the other one is it possible to have multiple starting points in a process? Yes. Yes, it's possible to, so many things to trigger, in a process. It's because of time that I don't want to really dwell much on that, because it's possible we have even 3 endpoints. It's possible we have, one endpoint, multiple endpoints, multiple start points. So depending on the trigger, of the process, that is that's on that. So yes, and let's move on to, we've discussed this. Yeah. So we are talking about the requirements. So like I warned you earlier, just in case if my laptop goes off, I will switch to another computer. So on this Epic, because this other laptop does not have Visio, so that's why I could not use that from the start. So Epic, what is Epic? And so because if you're working with maybe developers or, in any, maybe like Agile, even not only Agile methodology, which we're going to discuss next week, they may say, oh, what are the epics? Or just let us know the epics. The epics are just a large user stories, is that a large user stories that you can break down into multiple user stories. And we're going to talk about multiple or about user story as well. So a large and epic could be, it could be registration. Register. I may say, what is my epic? I can say, as a customer, I want to register, or as a user, I want to register so that I can have, purchase the product that is needed. You understand? So that could be, that could be my epic. But that epic can be broken down, because my registration can be broken down into multiple user stories, for the developers, to be able to, give me that functionality to be able to register. So when they say epic, they mean a large user story that can be broken down into smaller user stories. It could be 2, 3, 4, 5. So multiple user story. So that is an epic. So because when you have an epic, it's not really detailed, it's just like high level. So you need the user story. So you need to break it down into user story. And so like for the registration now, if the registration is my epic, so I can have functionality, a user story to create a username, a user story to set memory per password, to create an account. That's the first on that registration. So that is epic. So, and our user stories is usually a specific requirement. So it will talk about just a specific requirement, just one. So like now, setting a username. Username is just one. Like I said, registration may be my epic. So, but I've now broken it down into 3 user stories, saying I want to be able to create username. I want to be able to create or to set memory password. I want to be able to create an account. So now I have about 3 requirements. So user story is usually like one specific requirement. You cannot break it down. You cannot break user story, you can't break it down further. So that is just the simplest way it can be, you understand? So it's usually describe a requirement, the feature that you want from the system. And when you're writing, we have a format that we use to write a user story, which I'm going to show you. And so our user story, it describes, who wants a feature, what feature do you want? If I say as a user, so that means I'm saying user needs the feature. What feature do I need? I want to create an account. So that means creating an account. To be able to create an account, that's the feature that I want. Then the reason, so that why do I need the feature, the functionality? So that is what user story. We're still going to discuss that, maybe in the next slide. And our themes, because you come across this, some of them may say, what are the themes? What are the themes for this of this project? So it's more or less like high level again. You understand? So when we say themes, we are saying themes. Some themes you have like small user stories. They can have they can be from different epics, but they will have something in common. So we can say teams are like a group of user stories that have something in common. You can picture registration. I'm talking about customer wants to be able to create an account now. Customer wants to be able to, to be able to set memory password. I'm talking about customer. And I'm saying I have another epic now, second epic, and I'm saying the second epic is about purchasing. So, or payments. So let's say payment, that's my epic. So I'm saying my epic is payment. Oh, as a customer, I want to be able to pay, make a payment using gift card or gift coupon so that I can, pay for my order or maybe get my bills. You understand? So that means I'm still talking about customer. You can say that customer, from registration and customer from payment, they have something in common. Registration and, user story from registration and payment, they have something in common. What is common about them is about the customer. So I can say now, if I want to write my theme, I will say customer is my theme. So it's possible that you have a common goal from different epics. The user story will have a common goal, so like common attributes, you understand, from the different epic, but so that's what we call a team. Just like if you say, what's the theme of this this party, you understand? So that is what that is just about team. It's just like high level. So we are still going to discuss more on that. And so like we all know that our requirements, what is our requirements? Our requirements, when we say our requirements, like I want this, or ability to be able to create an account, ability to be able to make a payment, ability to be able to, or customer must be able to, create an account, customer must be able to set a memorable password. That is what we are talking about on requirements. So, you can see all these things have one thing or the other, they have relationship. And so we have feature. Feature is like our functionality. It's like something that you want the system to do or you want the product to do. It's like like the feature now is like maybe accounts, to be able to create accounts, to be able to set a password, that is our feature. And we have what we call tags, although as a BA, you just need to know this because you will not be writing anything about tags. But the task is what the activities that will be done by the developers for them to fulfill a user story. You understand? That is task. So maybe next week I'm going to show you the project management tool, and we'll be able to see the task. The task is now, if I want to now, work on this user story, the developers need to create maybe like multiple tasks, maybe about 5 tasks to be able to fulfill one user story. So that is that. And you can stay here, because for you, that's why I said on the introduction that the developers and the software tester, they rely on your user stories. That's why you need to be able to write a good user stories and and your epic as well. Because without your requirements, they cannot work, they cannot perform, they cannot carry out their activities because they cannot manufacture the requirements. So they need the requirements from you. They need all the user stories from you. So without you getting it right, definitely nobody will get it right. because you have more or less like a single point, like a point of, single point of success. Let me just put it that way. I don't want you to use the other word. You understand? Single point of success, because if you write a wrong user stories, they will deliver wrong, products. So that's why, BA, business analyst, is a very versatile role, because the QA, the developers, they cannot figure out the requirements without you providing the information. They rely on you to give them, the right information, write the, the correct user stories, the requirements, because you are the interface, between them and the stakeholders, your customers. So you will be the one to be providing information to them, saying this is what my customer needs, this is what my stakeholder needs. You understand? So they cannot even write a test script without your requirement. They need to look at your requirement. They need to look at the user stories, before, or your process man, to be able to know how they're going to come up with their own test scripts. So they believe in your requirements documentation, your user stories. You understand? They rely on it. So that is why you need to make sure you are very detailed. Everything about what you are doing is is really right. Because the user stories, because these are techniques that they use to support, all these use cases as well, saying the model, the requirement, that explain it further. So what we are going to quickly look at that. So this is like for what I've just described earlier, saying Epic K. Let's say this is our Epic registration. So my Epic K may have user story 1, user story 2, user story 3. You understand? So my Epic may have that. And also, we have a question: who writes the user stories? The developer is not going to write the user story. Testers are not responsible for the user story. Business analysts, you are responsible to write your user stories for the project team, for the developers. It is your responsibility, to write these user stories. And so this is the format of our user story. Your user story is talking about, like I said earlier, who needs the functionality or the feature. What feature do you need? And why do you need it? So like now, we are saying, like I said earlier, as a customer, I want to be able to create an account so that I can make a purchase, you understand, maybe online, or as a customer, as a credit card holder, I want to view my statement so that I can know the minimum payment required. You understand? So this is how you write your user story. This is the format of writing a user story. Your user story, you are talking about the user story, is describing who, what, and why. You understand? Your user story needs to fit this format. And because you are writing user story from the perspective of the user, of the end user, you understand? Or you are writing the user story from, from the requirement that you've documented down. So that is when you write your documents, your business requirement document, you still need to support it with user stories. You still need this in a software development project. You still need to write like use cases, draw the use cases diagram that we drew last week. Also, you need to, there are some other things that you need to do, but because we've talked about the user stories, so you need to write user story to support the requirement, because writing the user stories will help the developer to understand who is using it, and why do they want to use it, and which feature do they want as well. Because we can say, as an internet banking customer, I want to see my balance, balance of my account, so that I can know, the transaction that is being applied, or the transaction that has, gone through my account. And I can also say, as a student, I want to check my grade online so that I don't have to go to my teacher or go to the college. You understand? So you have, you need to be able to write it in this format. And so, like we talk about the hierarchy, like I said earlier, we have the team, which is like the, the top. So, which I can say the team can be my customer, which is Epic can be our registration, our payments, and we are saying the team is our customer, because our Epic is still talking about, we have some user stories, that's talking about customer in registration. We have another user story that's talking about customer in payments as well. So my team here can be, customer. So the feature, these are functionalities, like I said. Then so the feature, then you now have the user story, because in one feature you may write like multiple user stories in one feature, and also in one user story the developer may have like multiple tasks, in one user story as well. And so let's so just going through the question here. When one completes, okay, we've got that. Who bears the cost in the case of providing wrong? Who bears it? If you provide wrong information, the BA is the one responsible for that wrong information, because you are that is why you need that skills to be able to make sure your stakeholder is giving you, you probe them properly, and also they review, define your requirements off as well. For example, if you've been assigned to a project and you gather requirements from your stakeholders, and your stakeholder have mentioned to you, I want this, I want A, I want B, I want C, I want D. You've documented it down. Once you document it, you need to, that is why the next, I think that would be the next, maybe next few slides, you need to make sure you send it to the stakeholder to say, can you review what you've told me? This is what I've documented. Can you review it and sign it? So once your stakeholders sign it off and say, yes, that's what I need, you don't have any problem, as long as you document what the stakeholder wants and they provide a sign off, then fine. So you send it to the project team, the developers or the suppliers, they are building it, and at the end of the day, they built everything based on what you've documented. And maybe while testing it, the stakeholder say, oh, is this what no, this is not what I want. Then you can use, the requirement document to say, if in case, just in case if they even report it to the manager that that's what we requested, they just built rubbish. You understand? So you can use the documentation and approval email, like the sign-off email to say, this is what I want, and what they used to, sign it off. You can use that to justify yourself, because you need to cover yourself. You need to make sure, you explain that. You say, this is the approval email. This is the document I sent. This is what I got back. These are the comments I received. And, this is what was signed up. Once you've documented what the stakeholder signed up, then you don't have any problem. Then definitely they will know that the stakeholder actually maybe did not know what they want. You understand? So, but at the same time, that's why you need that skills to be able to help them, to think properly, to probe them, to know what they want, and, to make sure their problem or maybe what they are requesting will be able to solve their problem. Imagine if they said the system is slow and they said, oh, we need a new website. You understand? So it may not really be, that may not really solve their problem. You need to be able to, identify the weaknesses of the current system, then the solution, what you think can help them, then you can propose that, because sometimes they may not even know what is going to help them. They will just say something. So that is why you need, help them as well to be able to think, or, to guide them, when they are making that suggestion. So as for that, but if the stakeholder give you something, or maybe tell you, I want A, B, C, and you documented A, B, C, D, that means it's your fault, the fault of the BA and the developer, because they don't know what the stakeholder has given to you, because they rely on the documentation that you've provided to them. Then they will just say, oh, this is what the BA, or this is what Abby gave to us. Then they will ask Abby, where did you get this from? I thought the stakeholder gave it to me. You thought? Could we see the document that was approved? If they didn't find it there, that means that person will be in trouble. So yes. Yeah, so that is down on that. So let's check another. Okay, yeah, just going through. How do I know? So how do I know if I've captured all my requirements for a project? Yeah, well, because once you identify your stakeholders, you understand. Once you identify all your stakeholders, and they've given you all the requirements. So you just make sure you speak with the the right stakeholders, and you cover all the things that has been mentioned to you, and they review it as well. You understand? So, and because you have a project scope anyway, so you can use that to know whether everything has been covered as well. And your project manager will be there to be to guide you as well, just in case if you need to know anything about that project as well. Yes, I'm a first timer here. How can I access the previous session? Oh, yes, if you're a first timer, we have YouTube channel which you can subscribe to as well. Once you join the Telegram group, you'll be able to get all the information. You can just, I think you can just Google on YouTube, just search for Blue Sky Citadel, and you'll be able to get you can subscribe to the channel, and you'll be able to get notification, and you can get it online, on YouTube. Blue Sky Citadel YouTube channel. How long can user story statement be? User story statement, like it's just that 3 lines. You understand? It just asks as who, I need to do this, I want this, and so that's just 3 lines. So then you can have multiple user stories. You can have 20, depending on your requirement, depending on what you are writing about. So, but it must not be more than that's like that 3 areas that we've describing who and what do you want and why you want it as well. Okay, so once you have validation sign off from stakeholder, the BAs, yes, once all the things that you've documented and it's being reviewed and they say, yes, that is what we want. Yeah, you are okay with that. And do one need to write user story in plain English? Yes, what we just discussed is plain English. As a customer, as a line manager, as an accountant, I want to do this. Why this? User story, you write it in plain English because they need to understand it, and even if when your stakeholder is reviewing it as well, they need to be able to understand what you've written as well. Where does reverse engineering comes in the capturing requirements, epic, user stories, features? Because your epic user story is still form part of your business requirement documents. Your functional requirement is still part of your business requirement documents as well. And your non-functional requirement is still part of your business requirement document requirements. And because sometimes different organizations, they have different different templates. You may have a separate template for NFR for the same project. You may have a template for functional requirements. You may have another template for user stories, and like that. So depending on what you have in the organization. So yeah. So yes, okay. Let's quickly do this before this laptop shut down, just in case I will switch off to another project. Another laptop. So now this is an example saying, as a customer, searching for customer. So I'm not saying I can write this search by name in a particular user story, saying as a or as an admin, I want to search customer by, or as a customer, I want to search by name so that I can easily get access to my page. You understand? You can write that depending on how you are writing this user story. So, but what I'm just saying here is that the feature that we want is that we want a feature of function or functionality of a solution to be able to search maybe staff by name or maybe customer by name. And I want another user story to be able to search. So that means this is another requirement saying I want to be able to search. Okay, we are talking about customer here. Pardon me. So I'm not saying I want to search customer by name. I want to be able to search customer by address, and I want to search customer by account number. This could be maybe one of the requirements for maybe a banking solution, and maybe the banking staff saying, if I want to search my customer, maybe if you come to the desk or banking order, you are trying to make an inquiry and they want to search. So this could be one of the requirements saying, I want to be able to search customer by name so that whenever I type their name, I must be able to find my customer. Whenever I search by address, maybe like I can say, 22 Lovett Road, Bristol. I need to be able to search it. And I want another functionality to say, to search by account number. Once I just get the account number, I can search them as well. So this could be a requirement, or this is even more than one requirement. You understand? So I can say customer. Customer could be my team. Searching functional. This could be my epic. You understand? Searching for. I want to be able to search for customer, because I can say as a banking staff, I want to search for customer so that I can have access to their page or easily can locate them within 5 seconds. You could have so many reasons for doing that. So now I'm saying, because this is a large user story, so, and I've broken that user large, so because this is a large, large user story, which is my epic, and I've broken it down into 3 user stories: searching by name, searching by address, searching by account number. But what am I talking about? I'm talking about customer. So I can have another functionality to say registration, which is we see be about registering customer. Can you look at this exercise and let's talk about it? Okay, so we have a payment, pay with PayPal, pay with credit card, pay with debit card, payments, pay with mileage, book flights. I want us to be able to look at which one is the team, which ones are the user stories, and which one is the epic. So that we can discuss that. The noises. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. So can we look there? So which one is epic? Which one is theme? And which one is the other one? Which ones are the user stories? Yeah. Okay. So let's check here. Okay. I may have to do this. Let's see. Sorry, let me straighten my. Okay, yeah, let's check the answers. Pay with debit card, yes, user story, right, correct. Payments, what is pay? Epic is payments, okay. User stories, yeah, pay with PayPal, credit card, yeah. Payments, epic, yes, yeah, you're all right. And okay, yes. So we all agreed. Payments, pay with credit card, pay with debit card, pay with PayPal. Those ones are user stories. And yeah, theme is the book flight. So payment is, so because we can have different thing about payments. So the book a flight is the theme. Yeah. Yeah. All the rest are user story. Theme is the book a flight. Yes. Yeah, correct. Yeah. So, okay. So well done, everyone. Okay. So we'll move on to the next one. Yes. Okay. Okay, now, so we've discussed about the theme, the feature, the user stories, and also how you can write your user story as a, and also your, and also which one of the songs. So there are some, okay, I think I have the fun facts, maybe in another thing. Yeah, so, okay, let's see. Let me see which one I can see again. Okay, yeah, let's talk about acceptance criteria. When you write your user stories, when you write your requirements as well, for every requirement, there must be something that the users or your stakeholders, your stakeholders will need to be able to, to confirm that that particular, the requirement has been met. So what is an acceptance criteria? So we can say an acceptance criteria, these are like the conditions that a software, or let's say software product, or maybe a product must satisfy to be accepted by your customer or by your stakeholders. So, so we can say it's a checklist. You can say it's a checklist that would determine if all the parameters of your user stories are met, or maybe if all your requirements have been completed. Before the developer can say, oh yes, everything is done. Yeah, we are good to go. So that's your acceptance criteria. And who is responsible for documenting this acceptance criteria? The business analyst is responsible for documenting the acceptance criteria. I know you know the process, saying you document the requirement, the developers, we build the process, the software tester that you call QA, QA engineer, they will write their test scripts to be able to test it. But they need all this information, from your acceptance criteria, from your user stories, to be able to write all these test scripts. Because the acceptance criteria, this acceptance criteria will be dictated by your stakeholder. They will say, Harvey, for me to be able to know that the functionality to register a customer has been met, I need to make sure they can receive email confirmation in their mailbox, they can create an account, and if they use correct parameters for the password parameters, they can log in. You understand? So they may say they can use 5 things, to test just one functionality, because they will tell you, for this functionality, this is how I want to test it. But the acceptance criteria that they will give you, you need to make sure it relates with the requirements. You understand? So somebody cannot give me, I can write a requirement to say I want to register, and I'm using an acceptance criteria of saying I want to be able to print a form or to create an invoice. You understand? So it does not really, correspond or relate. You understand? There's no really, like strong relationship there. You understand? So I can say, so you need to make sure when you write your acceptance criteria, you sit with your stakeholders to document this, because they will be the one to dictate it. You are not the one that will dictate, because you did not even dictate your requirements in the first place, because they dictated the the requirements, so they have to dictate how they are going to test it as well. Because I've given you, say, Abby, I want functionality to be able to create an account, I want functionality to be able to view users, I want functionality to be able to generate reports, and this is how I'm going to test all these functionalities. So even when you document your business requirement documents, you may not, because it's not possible for you to document everything at once like that. Once you finish that, maybe why all these things, why you've documented that, you need to document your acceptance criteria as well. Once you write, but you need your user story to be written before you can even say this is how you are going to test it. You understand? So when you write your user story, you have a corresponding acceptance criteria that you will need to use to test this. So it's just like a checklist, checklist that the stakeholder will use to determine, to check whether the requirement that they've mentioned to you, whether that has been completed, because that's the only way they can know, because they can say, this is how I'm going to test my account creation or report generation. This is how I'm going to create it. So you just need to make sure because the user stories as well, because before a developer can mark the user story has done, they need to be able to check that the acceptance criteria of the test that the customer is going to do, they've tested it before even telling the tester, saying, oh, the product is now ready, you can come and test it, because they usually test it from the end, because it's not even possible for you just to write a code and just say, I've done it without testing it. But they will use your acceptance criteria as well to be able to check that customer said I'm going to check it. So I need to be able to make sure that check will pass. You understand? Before I say I've completed. So they use your acceptance criteria as well. So you need to make sure you write your user stories, your acceptance criteria before the developer even comments their work, before they even build that feature. Because with the user story, it will give them more information, also with the requirement, because you've written requirement, but the user story give them more information. They will look at the perspective of who is using that functionality, and also the test, just for them not to now check, have I completed everything? They cannot use the acceptance criteria that these are the tests that the person is going to test. So can I pass it as well from my hand before they can now say, oh, software tester, come and do this. And also the process is that when that is being completed, when the developer say, oh, have completed it, they will inform the software tester to say, oh, it's not ready for completion. But definitely they need to notify me, because for me to be able to make sure my customer is ready and is available. That is when we now go to the user acceptance testing. So, but let's just talk about the acceptance criteria. So you are responsible for it as a BA to make sure it's been documented with your stakeholder. Your stakeholder will make sure they review it, they're happy with what they've told you and what you've documented, and they sign it off as well that yes, these are the tests that I'm going to use, because those are the things that they will use, you know, the checklist that they will use during the UAT, user acceptance testing. Those are the things that they will use to test, because it's not possible for them to, you know, to do like 100 testing, but based on the test, they will just use all those criteria, you know. That's why we said acceptance criteria, the criteria that you will use to accept a product. Yeah, let's just put it that way. And so your acceptance criteria needs to make sure you write that before the development implementation. And also you need to make sure the acceptance criteria, you can test it, because if you cannot test the acceptance criteria, then why do you want to do it during the, you know, during the UAT? So you need to make sure your acceptance criteria that is written, you can test it. Also is realistic, is achievable. You understand? It's possible. And also, you know, for the acceptance criteria, when to document the acceptance criteria, you have to document that before the development. User story must have minimum of one acceptance criteria. You know, so for each of your user story, you need to test how you will want to test it that user story has been met. So that is why that is like a fact. Your user story must have one acceptance criteria. Yeah. So let me check this question here. Does AC comes up on the requirement table? I don't understand what you mean by requirement table, but if you are referring to the requirement, the functional and non-functional requirements that you write, no, it's separate, because usually you will have like all the places that I've worked so far. I use Excel to document my acceptance criteria. So it's going to be like a separate document on its own. It's different from your business requirement documents. So I usually document it separately in Excel documents, you know, with my user stories most times. So then once I will have a column for my user story, but because my laptop has shut down, so I can't really show you that. If I remember, I will show you in the next week, like the template. So I usually have a column for my user stories and also the requirements ID. Then I will have the corresponding acceptance criteria for that user story, you know, so that we say user story 1, these are acceptance criteria 1, 2, 3 that will be done. So that's how I do it. And so can one user story have 2 acceptance criteria? Yes. It can have multiple, it can have 5. So depending on how they want to test it. So yes, your one user story can have multiple acceptance criteria, yes. And the thing is just that a user story must have an acceptance criteria. Can we say that the theme is similar to personas? Oh, yes. Well, in a way, yes, yes. Depending on, you know, how you are writing it anyway, because the theme it may not really be. It depends. It depends. But yes, I can say yes. Yeah. Let me just put it that way. Is there an order for following all these principles and activity? Yes, there's an order. You know, like when you gather your requirements, first you identify your stakeholders. When you identify your stakeholder, you arrange, like investigation techniques to elicit your requirements. Once all your requirements have been gathered, you've analyzed it, you've documented your ACs to be the requirements, the functional and non-functional requirements, then you can write your user stories, because it's based on the requirements that you write the user stories. Once you finish writing your user stories, that is when you can now determine the acceptance criteria that you will use to test those user stories. Then what you will do, which I think is the next slide, is now to validate it. You understand? So then does the QA team build their test cases around the user stories? Yes. Because although some of them may be too good and they don't use user stories, to write their test cases, because I'm not in that field, so I don't really know, but they will use the requirements regardless whether they're using user story, because your user story, it's also it's still the same thing as your requirements. It's just that you are writing in the perspective of a user. So it's still about your requirements. So they will use your requirements regardless to write their test cases. They will use that. User stories are used in Agile. So not all. So user stories, because we're going to. So user stories, depending whether it's going to be not only in Agile methodology, because even if you are using a waterfall and you are documenting the requirements, you still write the user stories for the suppliers to be able to understand what what your requirements to be, or how you want, what you're trying to, from the user's perspective, that requirement, to give them more information. And you can implement waterfall methodology, which we are going to discuss next week. But waterfall methodologies, you still write your user stories, but so not only in Agile that you use user stories. Yeah, so let's move on to, so quality assurance is done before development. So because the QA, they can't do any of their work before the development. So the developers need to build the product before they can even test anything. So their work will come after the developer. So if the developer does not build anything, they can't test anything. So they won't have any job to do. So they have to wait for the product to be built before they can now test it. Yeah, okay. So, but what they can do is that while the development is going on, they will be writing their test cases as well. Yeah, because they can use your requirement document to write the test cases and based on your user stories. Yeah. Okay, so we have so acceptance criteria here. So, and we have another way that we can write acceptance criteria. Using BDD, because if you check job serve, job sites, you will see they may say, oh, they want a BA that can write, in BDD. They mean behavioral driven development. So we call it Gherkin language. So because I know some people, they mix it up. They say, oh, you write a user stories in acceptance or in Gherkin language. No, it's not user stories you write in Gherkin language. It's acceptance criteria. So because I know some people mix that up. So user stories, we have a way of writing our user stories is the acceptance criteria that we use that you can write in a Gherkin language, but you can write it in another way as well. But for any digital project, when I say digital projects, I mean like if you want to develop, if you're working in an organization and they're working on a project to develop an application. So it's a digital project, or a website is a digital project, or maybe like a phone is a digital project, like all these, digital, something that is not, you cannot touch, you understand? Let me just put it that way. Like the app, you can't really touch the app. Fine, you can download it, but you can, so you use acceptance, or you use Gherkin language. So it's always good. Anytime you're working on digital projects, you use Gherkin language to write your acceptance criteria, because that is the best way to write it when you are writing acceptance. But it's based on the requirements and your user stories that you write your acceptance criteria in Gherkin language. So who determines the acceptance criteria? I've mentioned that earlier. The stakeholders will determine the acceptance criteria, and because they will tell you how they want to test it. Who writes it? I've said that earlier as well. The BA will write the acceptance criteria. When do you write it? You write the acceptance criteria before development. And the format, so that's the one. So let me see if I can quickly open a work document and we can, use one example, to write the acceptance criteria. Or let me see if I can even write it here. So let's say, let me remove this format. So assume that I want to write an acceptance criteria. First, I can say, so the format is, you have your scenario here. So let me enlarge this. So you have your scenario. So your scenario could be maybe you have correct username and password. Let's say correct username and password. So because when you're writing your Gherkin language, you could have different scenarios, because if I'm trying to test, if I want to, write acceptance criteria to be able to test whether user can log in, for maybe for registration, I can have an acceptance criteria to say, when I have a correct username and password, I can have a scenario, to say, so this is scenario 1. I can have another scenario to say wrong password and write correct username. I can have another scenario to say wrong username and wrong password, because I just want to test that if I test this way, if I have this, combination of wrong password and correct this, what will happen? So the format is, let's say, so it will be scenario. Let's just put that bold. Let me bold that. So, and I'm saying this is my scenario. So, and I'm saying, so it will be giving. We call it giving when then. Giving when then. You understand? So I'm saying, let's say, I'm saying giving. Let's say giving. A registered customer when I input correct password, or let's say correct username, maybe that's what cover correct username. And one thing is that if you have another activity that you need to carry out, you understand? So because giving is like, the precondition. We say the precondition. So then what is then the activity? What happens? You understand? When? Like, what did you do? You understand? The action. We can say the action. Giving, I am a registered customer. When I input correct username. So, but if I have another thing I want to say, I can use and. So that's, well, something is giving when then. You can have giving and when and then. You can have giving when then, just 3 lines. You can have giving when and then. And you can have giving and when and then and can end it. So it and is just like, to combine, to add another activity. So let's just put it out. Giving when I input correct password and I input giving when giving I am a registered customer, when I input correct username and input wrong password, then I'm saying then what should happen? You understand? You can say and maybe enter something depending if you have to do something. Then I should get error message. You understand? So that means I'm saying whenever the scenario is that whenever a user, entered a correct username and oh sorry, here it's supposed to be wrong password. So because we use wrong password here. So I'm saying the scenario is correct username and wrong password. So we want to test this. I'm saying given I'm a registered customer, when I put correct username and input wrong password, then I should get error message or display error message or get error message. So that means I'm saying I'm going to test it, and during the testing, so that means the stakeholder may test it to say, I want to use wrong password and correct it. Let me see whether the system will accept it. If the system accepts it, that means this particular acceptance criteria has failed. You understand? So the acceptance, when they're testing it, the acceptance criteria is either fail or pass. So it's just that it gives more information, it's this particular acceptance criteria is better, when you are doing digital projects. Is really, really good. But you can read more on that. But this is just like, so you can have another scenario to say correct username and correct password. You can have, other permutation, wrong username and wrong password. So for different user stories like that, so you can have, but this is just the format, given when then. Whenever you hear given when then, so this is how you write it. So given when, you can have and then you can have then and. So that means if I have another thing that should happen after this, I can say then I should get error message and get return back to home page. If that's how I want the system to work, I'll just write and again. So that is that on acceptance criteria. So let's look at the question. Does this mean that a BA should write positive scenario and negative scenario and not just for QA? For the QAs, they write the test script. But for these user stories, yes, because depending on how your stakeholders say they want to test it, because they will just give you, I want to test this. I want to test that if I'm input wrong username and password, I should get error message. That is what I'm expecting. You understand? So based on the information they will give you, you will write it. So definitely is not, when you are doing testing, they are not going to test all positive. So although it depends on the stakeholder, it depends on how good they are. They may want to test the positive and negative. You understand? But the documentation, they may ask you to write positive. This is what they want to do. Depending on what they actually, tell you to do, then you just need to write it. But definitely the tester, they will write the test script, because the way they write the test script, it could be different, from this. You understand? It could be different. So but they will test negative and positive. But as a BA, you are just writing, you are not testing it, you are just writing the criteria that your stakeholder has provided to you or dictated that they want you to do. That is what you are writing. So it's not left to the software tester to do their testing by themselves, to write whether username and password, positive and negative. So please, what invest principle when writing user process? What invest principle? I think I've come across that, to be honest. I can look into that, but I know I've come across invest. I think that is, I will not be able to say that, but I know I've come across that invest principle. But writing user story, just write user story as would. That is the general format that people do use to write the user story. Is AC mandatory when writing user story? Yes, you need to write your acceptance criteria, because when you write your user story, it may not be immediately that you write your acceptance criteria. Because when you write a user story, you may write that while you are writing your requirement, and maybe after that you just say, Ms. Jones, we need to write the acceptance criteria, because we know the acceptance criteria, the UAT is going to be scheduled for this, and we need to be able to document this so that because the acceptance criteria are going to send it to the developer or the technical team as well, because they will need to be aware of what you are going to test. So based on that, you need to write your acceptance criteria. It's mandatory that you write your acceptance criteria before the development. Please, what other way can we write at the okay, so for example, if we have a requirement to say, as a credit card holder, I want to view my statement of account so that I can pay the minimum payments required. I can say the acceptance criteria, I can say the acceptance criteria is display total balance, display payment due date, display minimum payment, display statement of accounts upon authentication. So that's another way of writing acceptance criteria. So I'm not writing given when there, I'm just providing like a list. So I can say I want to make sure, because the user story is to be able to, to be able to view my statement. So that means on the statement that you are going to provide for me, I must see the payment due date, I must see the minimum payment, I must see the statement of account, and I must see the total balance. That is another way of writing acceptance criteria. Yes. So can SC be written after sign off? Yes. your acceptance criteria can be written after your business requirement document has been written off, because there may be an urgency that you need to submit the business requirement documents, maybe so dates. So because the acceptance criteria is not like urgently needed like that, you understand? So you may need, you may have an urgency to produce that on time. Then what you just do that once you submit that, you just have you working on your acceptance criteria, but they still need that before, before they start developing as well. Yeah, so is traceability mapping required for user stories? Well, the traceability matrix is, because that is what you just used to know that, even when you finish development or maybe writing, is to be able to know that this particular requirement, has it been met, which requirements or which feature actually meets this requirement, to be able to trace it, whether all your, all the things that you plan to do, all your features, all your requirements has been met on, and what you are using or the feature that is meeting that particular requirement. So it's just like tracing, you understand, tracing requirement. So there's another document that they use for tracing requirements. So yes, so you can have that. So let me quickly look in, I think the last slide or so. Yes. Okay, I think scenario 1. Yeah, I think I've discussed that scenario. And yeah, so the facts is that each requirement should have minimum of 1 user story. You understand? For your requirements, you need to make sure you have, because your user stories is the same thing as your requirements, more or less like your requirement. So we can say both Epic and user story, they represent a requirement, because if I'm saying I want, as a customer, I want to be able to register, it's still a requirement, and your user story also is still a requirement. And a user story can belong to 1 epic. Yes. So your user story can only belong to 1 epic. Yes, that is it. And also, each user story should have minimum of 1 acceptance criteria. Yes. I've mentioned that your acceptance criteria must be testable, independent, achievable, and realistic. And also, I think so both epic and so they represent, yes. Also, yeah. And I think that is down on that one. And yeah, so I think on this so the validation, yeah, I think let me just yeah, I don't think we can cover the wireframe tonight. So yes, so that means the process is that we are still documenting all our, so we've now identified a stakeholder, we've gathered our requirements, we've documented our functional and non-functional requirements, our general requirements, our technical requirements, we've documented that. We've documented our user stories now. We've documented our, let's say, our acceptance criteria. Yes, yeah. So, but the wireframe, it could be probably you use the wireframe, just while you are gathering your requirement. But because of time, I don't want us to go into that today. So, but next week, which is the last session, we are going to talk about the wireframe and also the UAT as well. Because I just try to follow through the, the process. You understand that you are going to, that you're going to use while gathering your requirements as well. And we are going to discuss on some other things as well. So yes. So although because we still have about 12 minutes, let's see if we can still make use of that. So so if you're talking about wireframe, the wireframe is more or less like a blueprint. You understand? It's like a blueprint, and we may say it's, wireframe is like mocking up, a way of mocking up a solution. Because wireframe, you use wireframe for a digital project. Like if you want to develop, or make a phone, you understand, like the Samsung, they usually use, have a wireframe. So it could not be, then there's low fidelity and high fidelity. A low fidelity one is, like if you draw it on a paper, or maybe it's just like static. If you click on, if I put like a box here, let's say I put this particular shape, I put it here saying, oh, my website is going to have this, or my phone is going to have a box or a button at the top. So, but if I click on it, if nothing happens, that is a low fidelity. But when you say high fidelity, is the one that when you click on it, it will imitate what should happen. So it could probably, if I click on that particular button, it could lead me to maybe another screen. So that is high fidelity. So that's just different. So you have different tools that you can use for wireframe. And so why should you even use, so why should you use a wireframe, which is for digital projects, it is very, very important. So it's part of your documentation as well. Like if you are developing a website, an application like apps, you know, all this Facebook, WhatsApp, definitely all their VAs and developers and the design UX, you know, we call them UXCX, so they will do the wireframe. And so maybe phone, to manufacture a phone, you know, because if you look at maybe like iPhone or Samsung phone, you have different pages. The layouts, you know, is the work of the wireframe, because without you presenting me the layout of the phone, you can't just go and produce it. You understand? You can't just tell maybe the will I say the manufacturing team or the technical team, let's say the people that they are producing all this what's it called, the hardware and the software. So you can't just say, oh, I need WhatsApp, I need to Play Store on this model of the phone or iPhone X, I need Play Store, I need iTunes, I need Map, I need Google Map, I need Google web browser, I need this, I need that. You know, you can even list 16 apps. But without, you know, them knowing how it should be arranged, they will just develop rubbish. So that means that is the main reason why they need to make sure they use the wireframe is being used properly. They use the wireframe. So that's why whenever you are working on a project that is digital project, you use the wireframe, you know, to gather your requirement. It helps you to gather the requirements because it will help the stakeholder to have a feel. You understand? Because let me tell you, they want to develop a website. Let's say we want to develop a new Yahoo website, and you are one of the BAs. How are you going to approach it? Fine, they will tell you we want people to be able to log in. We want to be able to create a profile. But how do you want it to be displayed? Is it the login button? Is it going to be at the left-hand side or right-hand side? How do you want it? So let's even use this example. Let's use this page, this PowerPoint slide that you are looking at, this page. We have file here, we have home. So probably they're giving you a requirement that this particular, we want an application that will be called PowerPoint. Then you say, okay, what are the things that you need in the PowerPoint? Oh, I want file, I want file button, I want home, I want insert, I want design, transition, animation, I want also shapes, and I want you know, arrange icon. Then I want, you know, I want user to be able to list their slide on the side and they have something in the but you know, if they're telling you, you've documented all these things, a user must have, the application must have a home button, your application must have insert tab. But how do you want it to be arranged? So it is your job to now say, okay, I know you've said you want all these things. How do you want the layout of the application? How do you want us to lay it out? You understand? Is the file, so that means here the BAs, the stakeholder, or maybe the Microsoft CEO or whoever is designing this PowerPoint have said, oh, we want the file to be the first, you know, the first tab on at the top. You understand? So, but at the top of it, we want an icon for save. We want an icon to undo. We want it to be, you know, even the shape as well. You know, definitely they will tell you, oh, we want undo, we want icon, we want redo. You understand? We want file, we want save, we want cut, copy. So, but because if they list it to you, but you don't know how to arrange it, and you just maybe the developer, they just develop this. And they put maybe this home, they put it in the middle, they put the design at the right-hand side. That may not be how they want it. But the wireframe, it helps you to minimize rework, to, it helps you to get it right from the beginning, because the user will be able to say, okay, let's look at it. This is how I want it to be arranged. I want a tab to be at the bottom. I want the clock to be at the right-hand side at the column here. You can walk it through them. You can even use paper, because if you are doing it on the screen, sometimes it may not really be effective. But if you have one-to-one interview, or maybe workshop, and you have like a board on the screen, and you are drawing it, so they can tell you, okay, we want it to be at the left hand side here, or move it to the right, move it to the middle. They will be able to tell you how they want it, because right there and there, it will help you to get a feel, how they want it to be presented. Then you can now say, this is how it's being done, and that will save you a lot of work, because without you doing that, you will just do it. They'll say, no, that's not how they want to do it, or the developer may even start working on it, and they will tell you, sorry, that's not how the layers that we want. You didn't have, so that's not what we told you. But it is your responsibility to use the technique of the wireframing to get all those information. So that is what we say. So with wireframing, it helps you, to mock up the solution, and and also, it's like a blueprint. So you need to, and also you need to have an idea of the requirements, before you can even use the wireframe, because sometimes they may not even know all the things that they want. But while you are mocking up the solution, they may tell you, okay, yeah, it may even, also help them juggle their thinking as well, and say, okay, this is what we want. Can you put this one here? Can you put this one here? It helps as well. And you can use Sketch. There are some applications that you can use, like Sketch, like Pencil, Wireframe, DZC, Lucid Chart as well. You can use that. You can use Balsamic. Also, you can use that Visio as well. I think I showed you the Visio sometime, maybe last week. So you can even use Visio to do your wireframing as well. Some people even use PowerPoint to do it, but so you have so many applications that if you are doing something like a form, you can use any of these applications to do it, because you just want to have, so you have so many things. And so it's like a placeholder. It may not really be interactive like the low fidelity one. It may just be like a container that will just, so we want a tab here, we want this, and you may not really write all this in. If I click on it, it may not really click. But if it's high fidelity, you may be able to click it and it will respond as well. That is what you see, like a dummy. You understand? It's more or less like a dummy. Like if you are doing, like the wireframe, if they want to do like a dummy, assuming that I've gathered the requirements and the designer, they've actually put something together, we can use the dummy phone to say, or to demo to the customer to say, when you click on WhatsApp, this is what we display. When you click on Play Store, this is what we display. This is the layout. When you click on this screen, it will take you to the next screen. You understand? So that is, so it helps you also to gather the requirements as well. Like the high fidelity one, you can click it. You will see how it will come up. Maybe the lights will, maybe it will light up, things like that. So that's the part of the wireframe. So, and one thing is that having no wireframe, sorry, we may go about maybe 5 minutes over 10 o'clock. So, because I just want to finish this since we've started this wireframe. So having no wireframe for the website development is a huge risk. Because you don't want to develop a website without a wireframe. It is impossible. That may be a failure. You understand? Because how do you want what they want on the home page? How do you know where they want the picture? As many that they said they want a picture, they want contact us. You may say, oh, okay. You may decide to put contact us at the bottom, at the bottom of the page, because that's how all the organization used to, where they used to put it. But they may decide to say contact us will be at the top of the page, maybe left-hand corner. So, so that is why you don't want to do this. So any digital project, make sure you use wireframe also. And also because it's more or less like having no architectural design. You are building assuming that you are building a house and you don't have architectural design. How do you want to build a house? And you are just telling the builder that I want a toilet, I want a bathroom, I want a bedroom, I want 2 bedrooms. Where would they know where to put the bedrooms, where to put the toilets, where to put the kitchen? They will not know. So it's more or less like that. So you need a wireframe to help you with the layout of the website or the layout of the phone or an application. So wireframe is very, very important, and it helps the stakeholder to visualize it. They'll be able to visualize their product, the end product, how it's going to be. You understand? They'll be able to have like a feel of it as well. So it also helps also to to get more detailed requirements about their about what they need. Because when you're saying, oh, what is it, they'll be able to give you more information on that. And also, you can use wireframing for any user interface or digital projects. Anything that that user is going to have interface with, like an application, a software, this Microsoft application. Definitely the VA and the developer and the designer, they use wireframe for it before they can do it this way. So it's more or less like you use it for high-level requirements or detailed requirements as well. You can use wireframe. Then once you have this, you can even sketch something before coming to the meeting. Then you just walk them through, and with that, they'll be able to give you more information based on what you provided. And so it helps them to visualize the general layout of a website or mobile app, or maybe like a form. Oh, okay, maybe next week I will tell you about that, because like if you are doing something on let's say a Power BI project, like a development project, a wireframe will help you, to be able to know how the report, how you want it to be arranged. Where do you want the total cost? Where do you want the name of the staff? Where do you want the invoice number? Where, the arrangement, the layout of the form. Also, we use a wireframe for that, because I've worked in the past on such projects, and there's no way you can build that report without having sort of like a wireframe, because the developer will not be able to, they will not know how they need to arrange the columns. Assuming that I'm going to have about 7 columns on the report. Which one did they need to put first? Which one did they need to put the second column, third column? How are they going to arrange it? You understand? So that is why you need a wireframe. And also it helps you to save time and money, because if you do this, it will save time to do the rework, and, than not having a wireframe. You build the website, because I think I've come across that in the past, that they did not mention about the color of the color palette for the website, and the supplier, they just use any color. And what happened was that when they were doing the demo, and the stakeholder was like, sorry, we can't have this. This is not our color. Our pink is not like this. Our pink is a bit darker. You understand? So that means the supplier needs to, change the background of the home page, But if you had had something like wireframe, that would have helped, or maybe during the demo, that would have really helped. And even the BA would have even documented all those things, but I can say it's the work of the BA as well. So, working through the stakeholder with your wireframe will help you, and it will, they will have user experience, how they are going to use it. So that is just on wireframe, and next week we will continue on validation. So let me quickly look through the questions here, so before we call it today. Sorry. So we have, I thought wireframe is the representation of key screens. So if you say key screens, it's not only, I don't know what you mean by key screen, but you have what you call a container, and it's not just only container. It could be like a placeholder for the test as well. So it depends. Is the BA responsible for building the wireframe? Yes. To gather your requirements, yes, you as a BA, you are responsible for that. But the detailed, layouts, or maybe how they're going to design it to make it interactive, that will be the work of the UX and the UX designer. There are some people there are some roles that call UX and CX designer. So they will help them to be able to say, oh, the user will be able to interact, user-friendly sort of. They will put all those touch in there. But for the layouts, you as a business analyst need to have an idea of what the stakeholder wants to see on their website. So as a business analyst, it's not necessary to be perfect, but at least you have an idea. You can say, my stakeholders want this, want this, want this. Then the CX and the UX, they may say, no, that is not possible, we feel it should be this way, then you need to arrange a meeting, with the stakeholder. Then the CX designer will be able to say, from my experience, because this is my expertise in my specialty, I can recommend that we should have the layout of it like this, because that will help, or maybe promote maybe customer interaction or something like that. So they can now suggest, but at least because the CX will not just they will not just relate with a stakeholder without you. So they need to have an idea of the requirement before they can now even advise, on the requirements. Who will do the wireframe? Yourself, as a BA, you do the wireframe. So wireframe in layman language is like writing a mock exam practices before the real exam. Yes, you will put it that way. Yes. Yes, it's more or less like a mock-up. Yeah, somebody has said that. So prototype, yes. Can we please get past question for the final? Yes, the past question that I know some people do have that, but I think the exam has changed. So you may, but one thing I know is that if you read the textbook, the BA textbook, I can assure you, if you read it and understand it very well, I can assure you, you will pass that. Yes, if yes, how can we can have it? There are more questions. Oh, please. Okay. Yes. Okay. Let me just quickly get that. I'm just conscious of time because I know people will be like, oh, we're supposed to have finished before 10. Yeah. Oh, by 10. Yeah. Let me just quickly check the, yeah. Please, what other ways we've done that? Okay. It's traceable. Please explain the three. How do we get the recording of the training? The recording of the training will be posted on YouTube, Blue Sky, Citadel YouTube channel. Can't you see screen one? Sorry, I didn't get the read screen one. Wireframe users marks. Can we please get? Yeah. Yes, I think that's all for today. So next week will be the last session, so we'll just finish up yeah, the any other thing that I think I need to share with you, then I'll share that with you. I'll share that with you. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. So yeah, so next week by God's grace. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.